right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Thursday, August 12th, 2021. This is your afternoon tropical update, where this afternoon we continue to watch the progress of now tropical depression Fred after its trip across Hispaniola, a much weaker storm currently near eastern Cuba, still generally moving to the northwest. We also have Invest 95L, a developing tropical wave that's pretty close to tropical depression status, located over the central Atlantic, and this is also generally moving towards the west and should be in the vicinity of the Caribbean islands by this weekend. So we're going to start with Fred here this afternoon. National Hurricane Center 5 p.m. update, hot off the presses. No major changes overall to the forecast tracker philosophy, although we do have some new tropical storm watches in effect. Tropical storm watches are in effect for much of southwest Florida as well as the Florida Keys. These just came out, so let's double check where these watches are. We also, so yeah, tropical storm watch in effect for the Florida Keys from Ocean Reef to the Dry Tortugas, and for the southwest coast of Florida from Bonita Beach and south and east to Ocean Reef, including Florida Bay. So those are your current tropical storm watches now up for parts of Florida. And National Hurricane Center still has confidence that Fred is going to reform and reorganize at some point. So looking at the latest on Fred, let's go ahead and start with the satellite presentation because this is how Fred currently looks. And this is better than it looked earlier. So Fred yesterday, as we talked about late last night, came across Hispaniola and tracked directly across. I mean, it literally trucked straight across, but all the convection was stuck down here behind those mountains and blown off, and it essentially ripped the storm apart. This is very common. This island in Puerto Rico are known to cause significant damage to outright destruction of tropical cyclones, and Fred really wasn't an exception. The compounding problem that Fred also has is not only has it ran across a mountainous island and now has almost no thunderstorm activity, but now it's moved under the influence of this upper level low that's over Florida, and this is imparting a west, kind of southwest wind shear over the storm and is causing more issues for any thunderstorms that do develop are going to have to deal with wind shear. So the 1-2 punch is going to be a lot for Fred to overcome. I'm still a little skeptical, like if this storm is going to be able to fully recover, but the Hurricane Center still has it recovering. So what Fred's going to have to do over the next couple, about 24, 36 hours as it moves through generally towards the Florida Straits and parallels the Cuban coastline is it's going to have to take advantage of all this warm water in this region. And that's going to come from ocean heat fluxes, pulling that moisture and pulling that heat up out of the ocean and organizing it into thunderstorms and developing the pressure, dropping that pressure and basically restarting the tropical process. And that's going to be sometimes difficult. There's still a low level vortex with this. It's not very strong at all. The hurricane hunters earlier found pressure is essentially 1,014 to 15 millibars. That's not even low pressure. That's actually higher than your standard atmosphere, but probably just slightly lower relatively speaking. But you can see here a little bit of a southwest wind, but not really much of a full wrapping wind. So some of this is precluded by the land. The hurricane hunters don't fly over land for safety reasons. But most of the winds you can see here this afternoon are occurring well away from the storm, where that little bit of thunderstorm activity currently is off back to the east of the center. So Fred is definitely in a struggling state right now, but it looks like there could just be enough to hang on. I'm a little skeptical, but the official forecast does have Fred re-strengthening in the next couple days. We know this because the conditions ahead of Fred may become a little bit better. So the current GFS relative humidity and mid-level winds chart, and we see here by the weekend, Fred should be over about the Florida Keys, and you see a lot of moisture associated with Fred. There won't be a lot of dry air in the vicinity. This water is very, very warm. It is like almost 90 degrees in some places warm, and the wind shear from that upper level low will begin to abate. So we'll back this model up. You can see here the low. This is valid for tomorrow morning, but you can see the upper level low still over Florida. Fred probably about here on this map, so still in the thick of the wind shear out of that west-southwest direction. But as we go into Saturday and really into Sunday, you can see an upper level high begins to build as the low kind of shrinks off and backs away over the southeast U.S. And now we have some higher heights aloft, and that should kind of put Fred under a much more favorable environment, and Fred should be in the vicinity of the Florida Keys on Sunday. So if Fred's up under this little kai, it's over very warm water, light wind shear, and there's not going to be a lot of dry air in the vicinity with mostly tropical moisture in place. That's when the Hurricane Center thinks tropical storm or tropical depression Fred will be able to reorganize in this region and maybe go. Now their track is actually a little bit faster than I'm looking at this, so maybe Fred may be a little bit further up. So that's one of the reasons we don't think Fred will be overly strong, even if it does manage to recover. But that's really the crux of our issue this afternoon is, okay, Fred is a mess right now. Can this recover? Can it begin to re-strengthen? And how does the environment look near Florida going in towards the weekend? We know the low is backing off, but where is Fred? Where's the low going to be? And can it find a window in the next 36 to about 72 hours to re-strengthen, because right now it's not going to have a favorable time for the next day or day and a half. It's going to be a pretty messy system most likely for the next day and a half. So can it take advantage of the warm water, and is the atmosphere going to let this thing refire? And that's the question. I think regardless, here at this hour we can expect a lot of heavy rain moving into parts of Florida. Again, anytime you have a tropical depression or storm coming up, even if they're weak, there's a lot of moisture coming in alongside them. Again, look at the GFS mid-level humidity. You can see here there's a ton of very wet tropical air moving into Florida, and on this depiction of the model, Fred is still basically an open wave on the model. So the models, even if it's not strong at all, a lot of rain is coming. You can see areas around Miami are looking at anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of rain, maybe a bit more. And this is the WPC official forecast. This isn't a computer model forecast, but you can see a swath of the Florida Peninsula and even up into parts of Georgia and South Carolina potentially getting in on it as Fred moves up to the weekend. And this is valid ending Tuesday morning right now, so even more rain could be in later in the week as Fred's remnants move up. So bottom line with Fred here this afternoon, guys, is I wouldn't count it out completely. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't probably bury it just yet. I'm still a little skeptical myself that this thing's going to be able to do it, but looks like it may have a chance when it gets near Florida. So keep your eyes on it. But if I had plans, I wouldn't be outright canceling them yet. Just I would expect a wet into your weekend and start to your week in Florida and parts of the Panhandle. And keep your eyes on Fred just in case it's able to get a little stronger and get going from there. So that is Fred. I also want to take a quick look at Invest 95L to kind of reset out here in the tropical Atlantic. This is an impressive tropical wave that continues to get better organized this afternoon. A 70% chance of development from the National Hurricane Center, and it looks like this thing is getting close to becoming a tropical depression at least. Afternoon satellite imagery before the sun sets here. Still a little disorganized. You can see here though, most of the thunderstorm activity kind of off to the right. The wave axis probably something like this. So most of the activity is weighted to the left side or the west side of the storm. It looks like a bit of an easterly shear, and there's also some drier sinking air in this region. It's kind of subtle, but there's like a general sag to the air right here, and this is probably where the Saharan air layer is. So there's some drier sinking air to its north, although there's just not a lot else going on. There's probably not a lot of winds here, honestly, looking at this. It's probably more this dry sinking air that's getting into the storm. But regardless of that, you have a little bit of convection firing near what looks like close to a low-level center. Earlier, the ASCAT pass caught this pretty dead on, the center of circulation right here, but still not quite fully organized. You can see here good rotation on the north side, but then there's really not a lot of backside winds yet, so we're waiting on that backside circulation to close. Looking at this satellite image, I mean, it looks like it's getting closer. You can see some low-level clouds rotating out in this direction, so you can see low-level feed in right here, some good feed here and feed here, a little bit of banding features, a little bit of outflow starting. So this thing is close. It's probably not there yet, but I would say within about 24 hours or so, you're probably going to see a tropical depression form, and this will be Tropical Depression 7 and eventually Tropical Storm Grace. The future of this system looks like this for right now. The hurricane models do bring this in towards the Northern Caribbean islands by this weekend, and then into the Caribbean later next week. It looks like following a similar path to what Fred took. So we can look at the GFS 850 millibar here. So we can see here that we'll back this up. So this is valid for tomorrow afternoon. You can see 95L just creeping on the screen as Fred moves up this way. But by Saturday into Sunday, this is when this will be in the vicinity of the Lesser Antilles. Models not really excited about this one yet. Both the GFS and the Euro not doing a lot with this intensification-wise, but it looks like the background state will be a little bit better than what the models think. So I think the models are probably going to have to catch up on this one and develop it. But generally speaking, that track there into the Northern Antilles, and the intensity models at least a little more excited about it, with most of them developing at least a tropical storm at this point. Only about, I'd say, 20-30% of them not developing developing a tropical storm for now, and your usual suspects, such as the ship's model, already taking it into hurricane status. But one of the things that has changed on our thinking is it looks like the environment in the Caribbean next week may not be as favorable as we thought. So this is Sunday, and you can see upper high building in over this region. It looks like this will be a fairly favorable environment, maybe a little bit of northerly shear as the system tracks in. But most of the strong upper level winds in the Atlantic will be north of the Caribbean to start the week. So it looks like that'll start. But then as we go later on in the week, it looks like that you have this upper high over Florida, and this is going to push some stronger winds into the Caribbean, and it might start to actually impact what could be Grace at this point as it's moving into Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and it'll also have the same challenges Fred had of directly moving into these islands, which, like you saw with Fred, is a big deal, especially if it tracks directly over Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. But if 95L is able to get further north towards the Bahamas, it could be in a better environment, but that wind shear may be more likely to impact it. So if it goes further south, it may be able to avoid a lot of that and stay a little bit stronger. If it goes further north, it might have some problems with wind shear. And if it goes directly into the Caribbean, then you're talking about interaction with those islands. So bottom line, 95L remains a interesting issue. I think you're going to see a tropical storm, depression or storm form before the weekend. You'll have at least some organized storm moving into the Caribbean by this weekend as Fred's moving up into the Gulf of Mexico. So we're going to have a lot to watch this week. Stay tuned for the updates. But right now, neither of these storms look imminently threatening. They're just worth watching. So anyway, guys, let's get for you this afternoon in your video. We'll have all the updates of the weekend. So as always, thanks for watching. Have a good one.